Hi, everybody. Welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin, and today is Flameworking 102.67, the Flat Ribbon Rainbow Cane. Now, I have made several rainbow canes in the past, but this time I wanted to make one that was a little flatter and wider and had a very dense color. The last time I made this cane, the colors ended up being very, very thin and just almost translucent. So this time I am going to make my color a little bit more substantial. So when I pull this cane out, I hope to have a nice opaque solid rainbow. And on that note, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon in the dungeon. Okay, I'm going to start everything out by building up the background of clear glass that I need to add my color to. So I'm going to start out by gathering up a good gather of this clear, and it is an 8mm rod that I'm using, and that allows me to get a bigger gather a little quicker. So I have my punty ready as well, because everything's gonna just I'm gonna work off my punty for this one. Now I add a little bit more glass there. I'm sorry I don't have a ruler in this one. This was pre-ruler. But just to let you know, this marble mold is a 1-inch marble mold, not a 1.5 inch like I said in the past. I was wrong to say that. It's only a 1-inch marble mold. But the back side, I'm going to flatten this out here just to get a lollipop going. But my marvering pad there is 2 inches wide by 2.5 inches long. So hopefully that will give you a good idea of how big this I'm trying to make a piece of sheet glass basically. So to give you an idea of how big I'm getting. So in order to widen everything, I am just kind of swiping on clear glass on both sides, allowing it to cool down. So I'll do one side and then the other side and kind of swipe it on where I need to. So I'm extending this whole thing out, and then I need to go in and, make it all nice and smooth. So I will just start to heat and polish one side and then the other side. The whole key here is to maintain everything that you have without it collapsing. So you have to balance that heat out and really know your heat in order to be able to make this. So what I'm doing here is extending the top now by adding a little bit on the top and extending the sides out. Really what I'm doing is making a little piece of sheet glass that matches about all those colors, the width of all those colors that I have in the background for the rainbow. So I know I have to be pretty wide. And then this is all just shaping and melting in to get that nice blocky shape here. And I'm just maintaining my heat on this mandrel. Okay, now to add the color. So I'm going to start out with this effetry. It's like they're purple, opaque. And it's not as dense or as dark as I would like it to be, but it works for a good purple. And I'm going to start, and I will add several layers of each color. Before, I was only adding like maybe one thick layer, but I realized that when you went to pull it out, the glass just gets too thin. So this time I am building up these layers. I'm going 3 up on each color. That was like I think a periwinkle blue. And then I'm going to come in with the sky blue here. And I'm just swiping my color down right next to, making sure I kind of am also touching the color that I'm kind of swiping against the previous color. And then just a little shaping after I add the colors, just to kind of pull those bottom points back up into the glass. That was like some kind of a dark green. It might be the petroleum green or a dark grass green. And here's one of my favorites, the pea green. And this rod is a little thinner, so if you have a thinner rod, you might want to add a little bit more. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm trying to evenly add each color amount. All right, and then we're going to jump right into this yellow. And yellows, this is like, I think, a daffodil yellow, but a lot of times yellows will boil at the tip, so you want to make sure you're working your yellow way out in the flame. And then just heating it up, bringing everything together. And if you need to, in between each color, I do heat the front and the back, but I am not heating where I'm about to add my glass. I'm really just heating the color that I previously added and the back side. Because every time you swipe on hot glass, you're adding heat to that area. All right, here I am with my medium red. I think the other color may have been orange, orange maybe. And I believe this is our last color. This is the dark pink. And it is one of those colors, I think it might be an EVP. It's one of those colors that will get a little strange with the surface. It'll react to clear as well. So I want to make sure that everything is encased at some point. But for now, all the color is on there, and I'm just kind of squeezing it all together, making sure that everything is nice and smooth, and it is time consuming. This whole process, it was crazy. This whole cane took about 45 minutes, almost an hour, I'd say, to make. But this is what we're looking for, a nice, very smooth surface on both sides, clear and on the color side. Okay, so we have clear on one side, but now we have to add clear to the color side. So I'm just heating everything up, getting it nice and warm. And now I'm going to let the area where I'm adding the clear to, I'm really letting that cool down so I can get a nice amount of clear around it and encase it without moving the color underneath. So what I'm doing here is as I'm gathering my clear, that's when I'm heating the back side. And that's all I'm doing when I'm gathering my clears, just heating the back side. I kind of got a little too bit in the flame there. And sometimes with these larger rods, if you go too much into the flame, into the cold part of the rod, it might pop. So be careful using the thicker rods. And then once I've encased that whole side, I'm going to encase the top as well, just to make sure that all of the color is indeed underneath some clear glass. And then here at the bottom, it was really a strange, it was an awkward position, but I did my best to coat all of the color that was on the surface, and then a little bit around the punty as well. And I'm now just going to press all that in. And yeah, that's really, at this point, that is when you want to make sure that all of the color is under clear glass. If there's any that you see peeking out, add a little clear to it, because we're going to move on now and just heat everything up and soften it a little bit, flatten it out again into your main shape, and there we have both sides coated in clear. Okay, now at this point, I have my color and it's coated in clear, and I want to make this cane, I want more cane, basically, when I go to pull this out. So I'm going to add more clear to it in order for me to have a little bit, thicker cane when I go to pull it out. So I'm going to add a couple coats on each side. The thing is, you just have to remember how many coats you have added. You want the same amount of coats to each side. And in the meantime, I'm just kind of looking at the front and determining where I need the clear glass. All right, this is looking good. Okay, so now a lot of heating here, a lot of heating. If you're working on a small torch, you may need to make this whole thing a little smaller. But if you have a larger torch, you can easily get to this shape and just start heating and melting in wherever you need to. All I'm trying to do is just melt the surface. I'm not trying to heat it up so much that the whole package starts to move. And I'll get that front part nice and hot as well. And I'll go to flatten it just enough, just so everything is nice and even. And you do see my punty in there quite a bit. It's about 1/4 of an inch in there. And I'm not worried about that. I can easily take that off when I need to. Okay, I'm going to try to add a little bit more clear to the top here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because at some point, I'm going to have to draw this out and put a punty on the end. And I know some people will draw it out nice and straight like it is already, but what I'm going to do is cinch the bottom in on both sides before I pull this out. And before I can do that, I need to just have everything melted. So I'm melting this whole front half, and watch as I pull and just gently pull the top and the bottom together, and then pull out the center. The only part of my glass that's hot right now is where I'm moving it, right here at the front. So I go to reheat the back a little and then get all my heat in the front. And then now I am kind of squeezing and pulling everything together. So when I pull it out, all of my color comes right to that one singular point. And now I know we have some colors that want to bleed out, so I immediately am going to add some clear to the top to protect all of this color. I want to always make sure that there's no color that could peep out. And then I'm just going to shape that up into a kind of a point, like a shallow point, and punty right up to it. All right. Now to do that to the other side. Okay, so my punty is embedded, and I will heat up my canes. I'll heat up the mandrel, but don't heat it up too much because it will melt. So you want to come out and then heat, and then come out and then heat. And what that's doing is that it's melting your glass, but it's also wanting to pull that foreign object out of it easier. You don't want to just heat up the mandrel, because yes, the mandrel will melt. So be careful. All right, now we're ready to clean up this other side. And I want to straighten up my sides. Make sure everything is ready to go. See how I'm going to pull those edges in a little bit and flatten it down. Make sure everything's nice and warm in the back. And then I'm going to focus all my heat here in the front again. So I'm going to do that same movement with these tweezers. Pull up from the bottom, pull down from the top color, and a little bit in the middle if you can. And that's all it is a couple little pulls there. And then I'm going to pull out a little bit more I'm trying to get it cinched out a little bit. I'll need a little bit more heat here. And gently pulling that out just enough to where I can squeeze down and into it. And then that will pull my final point out. Yank it off of there. But only when you have the right kind of heat. You're only trying to heat what you're trying to take off. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of clear to that open end. And now we are ready to punty this up, I believe. I have to say is I was, the whole time I was working on this cane, when you get to certain points and you're past these points, you feel like really good about yourself. Okay, so 'cause I've never made one of these this big. This was definitely an experiment, but man, this worked out great. So now that both sides are puntied up, you don't want to heat up where the punties are. Okay, you're just heating up. I'm almost like fire polishing in a circular motion. And then I'm heating the center, slowly heating everything up, trying to maintain this package without it being pulled out too much. And here, now that the color all looks pretty good, I'm looking for everything to be the same color red, nice and soft. Everything here is done outside of the flame. I'm going to gently pull and pull and pull. And here at the end, I move my camera so you can see how long my pull was. So I was pulling straight up and down, and I have about 3 feet of this cane. And it's beautiful, it's solid, and it is opaque. So I'm going to cut this down for you guys. And I hope you enjoyed this one, especially if you've been trying to make some really nice, solid colored cane. And this ended up being about, let me measure my cane. The cane itself is just about one millimeter. I mean, at almost about 1/4 of an inch. Pretty cool. Okay, so I'm just cutting these down into usable pieces. And I am working on the next video for this that you'll see coming up to where I use this cane. So I hope to see you for that one, and we'll see you next time in the dungeon.